Thank you. We are now live on YouTube. I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's licensing subcommittee, looking at the application for Rosa's Cafe. First order of business, please could I have a nomination from the councillors for chair of the meeting?
I nominate Councillor Aaron Brittis.
And a seconder?
Yes, I second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Councillor Alan Brittis.
Thank you to my councillor colleagues for graciously nominating me to chair. Very happy to chair this meeting. And I begin by welcoming everyone to the meeting. As I said, I'm Councillor Stephen Alan Brittis. We're joined by Councillor Una Moulton and by Councillor Nick Draper. And we'll ask all the others to introduce themselves as they're about to speak. Now, this meeting is being live streamed on the council's YouTube channel, and please be aware that with these kind of technical issues, there may be a slight delay. Participants will be muted until they're asked to speak. This helps with connectivity. If there are any technical issues that lead to a party losing a connection, we'll see what we can do. Perhaps even adjourn until that connection can be put back. And if the technical issues cannot be resolved, then we may have to set the meeting for another date. But hopefully we're all here, we're all hearing each other.
Oh, Stephen, you've frozen.
My councillors, and are there any apologies? There doesn't seem to be any apologies. We're all here, but any declarations of interest from councillors?
No.
Do not think so. Thank you. There have been none. Now, I'd like to inform all the parties here that the subcommittee will follow the hearing procedures set by Merton Council, a copy of which was included in the notice pack sent to all parties. If anyone has not received these papers, please speak now. Thank you. I think we've all received the papers. Our legal advisor, Guy Bishop, is here, and I'd like him to inform us of any briefing prior to this meeting that's taken place. Guy.
Yes, good afternoon to everybody. Guy Bishop, legal advisor to the subcommittee. Just confirming that the members do have a meeting just prior to coming into the meeting today, and always just to talk through the papers and read the papers in preparation for the meeting. Any legal advice will be given in deliberations, and details of that will be provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy. Also joined by Tony Hawkes, our licensing officer. Tony, are there any technical issues that we should be brought to the panel's attention?
Chair, thank you. There's no technical issues as such. I just wanted to clarify a couple of matters. So in paragraph 5.11 of your report, it does mention an annex with conditions. It was our intention to provide a collated list of all the conditions that have been proposed and agreed during the application. Unfortunately, I've noticed that seems to be missed off the agenda, but all of those conditions can be seen in your papers. There's a set of conditions on page 40 in the application form, and there's a couple of emails in your agenda on page 29 to 33 that have all the conditions that have been agreed. So apologies for missing that off the papers with you. There's also been a supplementary agenda that's been circulated, and hopefully everyone's got a copy of that. The supplementary does contain a map. It's quite an excellent map. I must congratulate the person that's done it. What I would say is that it's showing trading hours of premises, not necessarily the licensed hours. So I don't wish to pick holes in it, and I'm not going to take you through all the hours. What I'd say is one example, in the first one shown on the map for Buenos Aires, the actual licensed hours are 10 AM to midnight, Monday to Saturday, not 5 PM to 11 PM as shown on the map for Monday to Thursday. Chair, I do have all the hours for all of these premises if you need them, and on the whole, the map does reflect what is licensed in the area.
Thank you, Tony, for those clarifications. No, I don't think we need all the hours of all the premises in the area.
I would advise you not to necessarily know about them, but that because you're considering this application on its own merits. But I'm sure that the lawyer for the applicant will explain that to you in due course.
Yeah.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you. Okay, so as I explained at the outset, so when we began this meeting, the hearing and order of speakers will be following the procedure included in your agenda pack. So we'll start with the presentation by the applicant. So would the applicant be kind enough to make their presentation?
Chair, thank you. Can you hear me? First of all, just checking you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good, okay. I'm Craig Bayliss. I'm the solicitor for Rosa's London Limited today. I can take this fairly quickly, I think, because it's a relatively straightforward application. Rosa's is, I don't know if the committee are aware of Rosa's, if you know of any of the others, there are 28 of them trading currently in and around London. Nearest one is Tooting, there's one near me in Fulham, a couple in central London. They're starting to move outside of central London now, got some outside in the provinces too. Chair, they're all restaurant licenses. There's no bar involved at these premises at all. So there's no vertical drinking. There's no drinking without food. It's all sit down. It's all waiter waitress service. As you might guess from the title, they're Thai restaurants serving full table meals at all times. My normal practice when I'm instructed to apply for a new license for this particular client is I have a standard template that I use, and I usually apply for a license till midnight wherever they are. And that's what I did in this particular case. We got in the local resident representations. And so having taken instructions from my client, I was happy to reduce the hours. And you'll find on page 7, I think, of the supplementary papers, if you've seen it, there's an email from me, which I sent to all the residents, effectively telling them that we were prepared to reduce the terminal hour for alcohol to 2300 Monday to Saturday and 22:30 on Sunday. So 11 o'clock through the week and 10:30 on Sunday, with half an hour drinking up time at each one. So effectively bringing these premises into line with all of the other licenses in the area. The concern of the residents seems to be that the other licensed premises don't use all their hours. Well, I'm afraid whether they use their hours or not is completely irrelevant and immaterial. At page 5 of the supplementary bundle, I did go onto the council's online licensing register and cribbed all of the current licensing hours that the premises are entitled to open for, and you'll see those on page 5. I've set out 6 different sets of premises. Wagamama, which is I think 3 doors down from us, is notable for the fact it's got a midnight license every night of the week, 10 a.m. To midnight, apart from Sunday when it's 23:30. But most of the other restaurants' licensing hours in the area reflect that we are now, as an amended application, currently applying for, which is 11 o'clock Monday to Saturday and 10:30 on Sunday. Chair, we say that that's entirely reasonable for a restaurant license in this particular locality. It mirrors exactly what everybody else has in the area. No issues, no difficulties. In all the time that Rosa's has been trading and its other 28 restaurants, we've never had any problems or issues with the premises. With me, in case you've got any operational questions, I've got Steve Seeger, who's the property director. And also with him, Steve, I've forgotten your colleague's name, who's one of the operations directors too. Julie Hallam. Julie Hallam. So, Chair, we've got operators if you need them. You've got the lawyer if you need him. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to the applicant, Craig. Thank you for that succinct and to the point. I would like to give the opportunity to Steve Sager and your colleague there. If you want to say anything, you are applicants, you are representing the applicant. If you want to say anything, now's the time.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy with what Craig has said on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we come to the opportunity for interested parties to ask questions. We have Lynn Gordon with us and we have Polly Joseph. So Lynn and Polly, you're very welcome to ask a question of the applicants or two. Not a speech. This is not your presentation. It's your opportunity now to ask any questions you want of Craig Bayliss.
Polly Joseph speaking.
Hello, Polly.
Hi, I'd actually like to ask maybe the operator rather than the lawyer the question, but my question about, and I'll talk later, but my question is whether you think that your restaurant will attract additional customers into this area.
I think, well, I'll speak on their behalf then if Julie wants to add anything, but what we tend to find is that when we apply for a new restaurant license, it's servicing the existing area. I mean, there isn't a novel catchment to introduce. It's simply providing more variety for people who want to come and use our own restaurant. So I would suggest not. But Julie, I don't know if you've got any comment on that.
No, Craig, I'm happy. I actually agree with everything you just said. Yeah.
Thank you, Polly. Is there any more questions from you, Polly, before I turn to Lynn?
No, I have no further questions.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you. Lynn, did you want to ask a question of the applicant? Okay.
Sorry, there you sorry, I was having trouble unmuting there.
Okay.
Hi there. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to ask questions today. I do find it quite strange that in a situation at the moment where a lot of what was essentially old retail and shops that closed at about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening are now being replaced by.
Yeah, if you can ask a question, I mean, that's a statement, Lynn. So could you ask your question of the applicant?
Area. And that seems a bit of a strange to make.
Lynn, would you like to ask you'll have a chance to make a presentation and make a statement. Would you like to ask a question of the applicant?
I was just asking, have they attracted new customers in one of their other 25 branches or whatever it was?
No, we service an existing market that's already there. You don't tend to find new customers coming into the area. It's a restaurant license. People don't travel miles because it's a destination location. People appreciate the extra facility that we're offering for the existing market.
Lynn, any more questions?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Now it's an opportunity for questions by the subcommittee. Councillor Una Moulton, over to you.
Thank you very much. This is, it's interesting to hear that this is one of 28. Could you just give us a flavour of the sort of restaurant that you are? I mean, I know from the map that you've given, it's on 2 floors. You've stated it's sit down and at tables.
Yeah.
But I'd just like a bit more of a flavour to your restaurants, and presumably they're done to a similar template. So yeah. This restaurant, when it opens, because it is a new restaurant.
Yeah, very
so it'd be useful to know, I think, or helpful at any rate, to know the sort of restaurant and why you think it's going to add variety, as you quoted. I think I quoted that, adding variety to the area. Thank you.
So it's set over 2 floors, as you see on the plan. I'm just looking at it myself now. It's all tables and chairs. There's a excuse me. There's a small dispense bar in the centre of the ground floor. All the services by waiter waitress only. There's a meet and greet as you go in. So you've either booked a table beforehand or you're taken to a table if you haven't booked one, and we've got some space either on the ground floor or upstairs. Kitchens at the rear. I'm going to ask Steve and Julie if they can help me just in terms of Steve, help me with what the investment is by Rosa's in relation to these premises. How much are you spending on the refurbishment? What's the likely timing? And Julie, how many staff do you think you'll be employing at these premises?
Thank you, Craig. So we will be spending somewhere between £750,000 and £800,000 on the fit out from shell handed over by the landlord. The restaurant will have 92 covers, as you say, split over ground and first floor. In terms of the operational side of it, I'll pass it over to Julie, who's the operations director, will be able to give a flavour of the type of restaurant we are.
Hi, good afternoon. In terms of staffing levels, we would estimate it in around 20 up to 25, including management, and that's split between the front of house and back of house teams. In terms of the operation, I think we're looking at, and as Steve mentioned, it's primarily a dining restaurants. Our trading patterns are generally weighted more towards, it's not wet led, so it's more towards the food. So we're looking at roughly about a 70-30 split. It's local residents, families, and young professionals that come for a casual dinner. They'll be with us on average for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's a very relaxed dining experience.
Julie, average spend per head roughly?
Average spend, you're looking at about £25 upwards.
That includes booze, if you're having a meal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're probably looking, the majority of tables, they'll have table water. They may have a glass of wine or a beer, but it's not necessarily, we're not driving sort of the beverage element. It's more sort of the sit down 2 to 3 course meal.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's given us a flavour. Over to Councillor Draper, did you have any questions? No? Is that a no? Okay, we've been joined by Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, are you happy to join in on the next section, which is an opportunity for you to speak?
I am, and thank you. Sorry for being late. Yeah,
that's all right. You've missed the opportunity to ask the applicant a question. Did you have a question of the applicant?
No, I'm fine for now. Thank you.
Okay, I'll bring you in later. Okay. So now we're on to the presentation by interested parties who will take in. So Lynn, Polly and Mr. Gupta, it's your opportunity to make a statement here. So which one of you wants to go first? Polly.
I'm happy to do that. First of all, I'd like to assure Rosa's and the committee that it's not Rosa's itself that's a debate about the licensing. What I think is a concern to people who live locally is that this is an area of special policy that applies under Merton's licensing, and it's as such it's in a cumulative area, and it's really important that that is taken account of. And we don't see anywhere in the application that there's no mention of the cumulative impact assessment.
Well, Polly, can I just stop you there? You'll come back, carry on in a bit, but I need to get the legal officer on board.
Fine.
Just to clarify something for us all. Just
yes,
stay there. I'm going to allow you to continue later.
I was just going to say that obviously the committee is always interested in promoting the licensing objectives based on whether there's going to be cumulative impact from this proposed operation. But in terms of the old cumulative impact policy, that has been superseded by the cumulative impact assessment. And that's not specifically a policy that says that licenses must be refused unless there's a great exception. But obviously you're still considering things under whether there's going to be curious impact anyway. But I thought I ought to mention that so that you're aware. And that arises from the change from the licensing committee when it considered the statement of licensing policy last year.
Yeah, but
Polly, you can carry on.
Yeah, I'm not actually. I'm referring to Special Condition 9 of the licensing policy, which clearly shows that the onus is on the applicant to show in the operating schedule that it won't be adding to the cumulative impact.
Exactly.
There are a number of statements that the applicant is required to consider, and I just don't see any evidence of it in what has been produced in terms of the licensing application and the steps to promote the 4 licensing principles. So that was a comment. I'm not going to say anything further on that because it's the council's duty to consider it and to give reasons if it's departing from its policy. I want to just talk about other things that affect, which are referred to in the licensing policy, namely the potential for disturbance to local residents. And the policy quite clearly says, and this is what we experience in practice, is that patrons quite often, well, not often, they often park in local residential roads. and the roads around have residential they're controlled parking zones. Alwyn Road, Compton and Woodside are part of W2, and Mansell is part of W1, but they all permit parking after 6:30 in residential bays. And we have a lot of disturbance from that that goes on. So the long hours cause potential for us to suffer from disturbance, and that is one of the things that I would invite the committee to consider. We also have disturbances from takeaways because the delivery drivers at the moment congregate outside the station and then come and congregate at the end of the road when they're waiting for their pickups. So those are matters to consider. So I would also like to mention, in terms of the trading hours, and I recognise the trading hours are shorter than the licensing hours, but it's not a question of all being the same. This is a cumulative impact issue. And, you know, it just so happens that Rosa's is the latest in a series of applications that apply to this particular area. And I've looked at the website and I see that all of Rosa's trading outlets, at least 21 of them in London, trade Sunday to Thursday till 10:30 at night and Friday and Saturday till 11 at night. And what is now being proposed in the amended application is actually later in terms of trading than all the other restaurants, which are closed by 11 weekdays, the latest, and 10:30 in the evening. So, you know, I would ask the council to consider the cumulative impact here if it intends to depart from its special policy, and to consider the impact on the residents, which is a valid reason for considering reduced hours.
You're on mute, Chair.
Thank you, Craig, for that. Lynn, over to you now if you'd like to make a statement. But make sure you're not repeating everything that Polly has said, but if you want to re-emphasize it or express your issues, go ahead. Lynn, over to you. Perhaps as Lynn is trying to get hold of her communications. Mr. Gupta, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I don't want to repeat any of what Polly has said. I did want to emphasize, look, we welcome investment. We welcome Rosa's as a business, nothing against Rosa's. But I think the points Polly has made are very, very correct and on the point. I've recently moved into the street. I used to live Southeast London. And I must say, you know, parking is a real issue here. And as a resident of Alban Road, you know, I experience it on a daily basis. The motorcycle couriers, people parking in the evenings in the resident base to go on to the local restaurants, etc. So I just really wanted to re-emphasize the points that Polly has just made. And then I'll leave it there, Chair. I don't want to repeat all the points and take up everyone's time, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you for being with us. Lynn, did you want to?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, I don't really want to repeat what's been said. I agree with the past two speakers. And really just to raise the point that lots of things are in motion around this area at the moment. Lots of changes, as with all high streets. But one of the things which is being introduced at the moment is a no parking, no loading zone at the beginning of both Alwyn and Compton, but it's 24 hours a day, which will actually push all the extra traffic even further down the roads and cause more disturbance. And really just to
thank you.
Emphasize that point.
Is that it, Lynn? Yeah? Thank you.
That's it, yes.
And thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do for your area and for representing your area and to Polly and to Mr. Gupta. Now is the opportunity for questions by the applicant to the interested parties. So if the applicant could point their question at either Polly, Lynn or Mr. Gupta.
Yeah, Chair, I've got no questions of any of the interested parties, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we turn to the subcommittee to see whether Councillors Moulton and or Councillors Draper would wish to pose any questions to the interested parties, and that's Polly, Lynn or Gupta. Una, did you have any questions to the interested parties?
No, I don't think so. They're all valid points. I thank them for making them, and
Okay.
We'll be considering those points. But thank you, as I say, for them for attending and raising those points with us.
Thank you. And Councillor Nick Draper, did you have any questions of the interested parties? You're muted.
You're muted, Councillor.
Councillor Draper, you're still muted.
There is.
Yeah, I'm very
there we are.
sorry. I'm on my phone and it's the operating is different. No, I don't think there's anything that I can do that will really add to the situation. I'm sorry about that. Sorry,
That's
just all I wanted to say, and I was on mute to say it, so I apologise.
Thank you. That's all right. Yeah. And now I'd like to ask the licensing officer for any comments or clarification. Over to you, Tony Hawkes.
No comments from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'd like to ask our legal advisor for any comments or clarifications. Over to you, Guy.
No comment, no clarification, no legal advice at this stage, apart from I'll probably be giving you some in deliberations, I suspect. Thank you.
Okay. I'd now like to turn to the interested parties. This is your chance, Polly, Lynn. Mr. Gupta, what's your first name?
Sure, it's Anurag.
Anurag. So I kept calling everyone by their first name apart from you. So it's your opportunity to make a closing statement. So Polly, did you have a closing statement?
Briefly, just in closing, just to re-emphasise that there is a cumulative impact issue here to consider. And in that regard, I would ask the subcommittee to consider restricting the hours, licensing hours, if they are minded to depart from their policy, and to also consider the drawing refers to external covers, and those presumably front onto Warple Road Mews, where there are residential flats.
Thank you. Lynn, did you want to say anything?
Really, just to support Polly's points, and also from what Anurag was saying earlier, that it is a matter of, I think, not adding to the cumulative impact of this.
Thank you, Anaguru.
Nothing further from me, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all again for being here representing your community and the roads that you live in. Now, closing statement by the applicant, Craig.
Yeah, yes, if I can just deal with some of the points that have been raised by the interested parties in closing. Number one, cumulative impact. If there are cumulative impact issues, the police would have been objecting, and so would the licensing authority. We've had interaction with both of those and agreed conditions, and so as you're aware, there is no responsible authority representation today. It's purely local residents who are concerned in relation to their issues. Parking, I would respectfully suggest, it isn't an issue that you can take into account. I think it was Polly who told you that the parking restrictions lift at 6:30, and so anyone's entitled to park wherever they want after 6:30. The fact that residents can't park there, I'm afraid, is unfortunate, but if non-residents come to the area and choose to park in those spaces, then they're perfectly entitled to, and it's not a valid consideration in relation to whether or not Rosa should be granted a license for their operation. When we first tried to interact with the residents to deal with their concerns, what effectively we were told was that if we agreed to pull our hours back to what Polly's called the trading hours of the other restaurants, then that would be acceptable. Well, the fact that the other restaurants choose to trade earlier it is really neither here nor there. They have licenses which allow them to trade until much later. I can tell you, because I've spoken to Steve Seeger and Julie about this, if on a wet Monday in January at 9:30 our restaurant is empty, we will close it. There's no point in keeping a restaurant open when there's no trade and there's no one coming in. Why waste money on staff costs and electricity if there's no point in trading? So we will take a pragmatic view about whether or not it's appropriate to trade and whether or not we keep the restaurant open. All we're asking for is the opportunity to trade on a level playing field to exactly the same hours that all the other restaurants have, and in the case of Wagamama, even later with a midnight license through the week. Chair, I think that's it really from me.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. That's quite clear. So what I want to do now is to inform everyone that we'll retire to a closed session where I will invite the legal advisor and the clerk to join us to provide us with further advice. Once I've closed the hearing, our clerk will disconnect you all from the meeting. I'm sorry about that, but things have come to an end. Just to inform everyone that all parties will receive a written copy of the decision notice within 5 working days. Thank you all for the spirit in which you've entered this subcommittee meeting. Thank you to the residents for caring for their area. Thank you to the applicant for the investment that they're bringing to the area, provided, of course, we decide that this goes ahead. And thank you for the employment. These are not licensing issues, but it's important to thank people for their motives in coming to the town centre, but also thanking the residents for their concerns. Thank you to my 2 councillor colleagues. So I therefore now close the hearing. Thank you all for your attendance. Clerk, you may now close this meeting.
Can I just raise a point with Guy? Guy, can you just let me know, are we waiting for a decision now, or is it coming to us within 5 working days?
It will come to you in 5 working days.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I therefore now close the